radio for the Agile community. www.Agile.FM. Welcome to another episode of Agile.FM, and today I'm here with Stacey Ackerman, and she is the ScrumMom.com, and today is all about Scrum in a family, actually in Stacey's family. Welcome to the podcast, Stacey.
Thanks so much. Glad to be here.
Yeah, well, we want to explore something, which is pretty much your domain name, ScrumMom.com, where you explore Scrum in a family. And I think everybody listening to this podcast, having done Scrum in a professional context, is probably curious to hear how this is all going to look like in your living room, kitchen, and so forth. Do we have to picture whiteboards in your house?
Yeah, I do. I have a very large whiteboard, and I have an area that's like a kid's office, and it's hung up there. And everyone in the family has a different color Post-it note, and we have kind of a Kanban style going on where we have to do, in progress, and done. And so that's sort of how we keep track of our household tasks.
Right, so no electronic board, it's physical boards.
It is a physical board, yes.
Because the family is co-located.
That is right. The family is all co-located. That is true.
Awesome. All right, let's go step back here for a second and ask the obvious question, why Scrum in the family? How did you come up with this? What's your intent? What's the goal for you as a family?
Well, really, I'm doing it as a profession, as an Agile coach. And I thought, well, if I'm helping these teams at work becoming more organized and more efficient and getting more done, why can't I do that with my own family? Mm-hmm. And as many people probably realize, household chores can be a real drag. And there's always, fighting and who owns what task and who's pulling more weight in the family. And so by implementing Scrum at home, it really helped give us some ownership of tasks. It helped empower the kids to choose the things that they would prefer to do. And it really gave us visibility into what's happening.
Mm-hmm. So you just mentioned the word chores. Are there any other things you're planning with this? Vacations, for example, not so much of a chore, I would assume.
It's possible at some point that we would expand into that. But right now, we're really using it just for household chores.
Okay. Are there any kind of tasks? Now, I'm curious because you mentioned your family members, I would assume your kids, your husband, they're walking up to the board and they're volunteering for work. Some of those tasks are not going to be volunteered for.
Yeah. So what we've been doing is usually on Sunday afternoon or Sunday night, we'll kind of do it maybe with breakfast or at a meal. We'll sit down and we'll have our Post-it notes and we'll talk about things like what are the things that need to happen every day and what are the things that maybe have to happen once a week. And I was really surprised, but the kids are almost fighting for who gets to do what. It was really shocking. They're volunteering a lot more than they are not volunteering.
Wow. So they're actually fighting over competing for certain tasks in the household, doing the dishes?
Yeah. I want to do that one. I want to do that one. So some of the jobs are, we have 4 cats, so there's a lot of jobs around cats and, mm-hmm. and litter scooping and doing dishes and different things. We've been doing this a few months now, and we're continually refining it as you would in any Agile process. And what we learned is at first, they were taking on too much. It wasn't realistic. And then some things like my 6-year-old giving her responsibility of all the cats wasn't realistic. So we've kind of scaled it back and refined things as we've gone along, and we're figuring out what works for our family. Mm-hmm. But it's helping us stay very organized.
Well, this is awesome. I mean, this is a great topic, and I was looking forward here to speaking with you about this because I'm pretty sure there are lots of people experimenting with these kind of topics at home, right? Are there any kind of pairing activities going on? Do you see anything from your professional career, what you do as a coach? Is there any kind of pairing going on that some team members actually do stuff together, or is this more like an assignment? I'll do this, I'll do this.
Yeah. So one thing is what is motivating them, and a lot of times they have a TV show that they love to watch called Once Upon a Time, if you've heard of it, and so I'll say stuff like, well, you know what? I don't care who does what. But we're not going to watch the show until all the daily tasks are done. And then you will see them start to kind of help each other out because they're all motivated and they're working towards that same goal.
Well, there's one thing about a Scrum at home, I would assume, as a family. We feel like there's a very high comfort level how people communicate with each other. And now you bring in a process like Scrum, for example, Kanban. How do you do like these more like formal events like a retrospective? How do we have to visualize this? How do you guys get together? How do you guys do dailies?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say we're doing every single ceremony that there's in Scrum, but we're doing pieces of it, and we're kind of starting small, and we'll build on it from there. Retrospectives have been very informal, so it'll be, hey kids, what did you think about that? What do you think we can do better next time? And it might be 5 minutes long. So we're not doing a real formalized retrospective. Like I said, sprint planning we do, but it's typically maybe while we're eating breakfast or something else. So it doesn't feel like so much of a, oh my gosh, we have this big chore.
Yeah.
Meetings. So we're trying to just incorporate it as much as we can into just things that we're doing anyways. As far as kind of the daily stand-up, we've always done something we call cabbages and roses, and it's not really related to chores, but it's what went well today and it is a rose, and what didn't go well is a cabbage. And this is something we have been doing in our family. My oldest is 11, probably since he was about 2 years old, and so it doesn't exactly hit on the chores, but it's kind of that daily communication with the team.
So, Stacey, if I would ask anybody from your family right now, not you on this podcast, what they think about this process, what do you think? I mean, there's this professional Stacey who is doing this for a living as a coach. What's their perception of this process, and do they like it?
Yeah, well, it's a mixed review, I would say, just like you probably have on any professional Scrum team. I would say my 11-year-old really, really got into it, and I think because he's at the age where he wanted to be a little bit more empowered to choose, and he really liked seeing the tasks. My 6-year-old also, she loves the board, and she'll even take a notebook and she'll write down her list every day herself of her jobs. And so she really likes the visualization. My middle child, my 9-year-old, he has been a little bit more resistant of it and saying, I don't know, I kind of like it the old way. And I would say also my husband was a little bit resistant, although I think he's coming around to it now.
Okay.
So what we did this sprint, which is new, is him and I gave each other tasks as well. At first, we were only doing it for the kids, and then we decided, if this is going to be a family thing, it really has to be all of us.
Well, I think that's the real benefit there. So the kids see what the parents do, and they see the amount of stuff the parents do, I would assume, right?
Yes, exactly. So we didn't do that at first. And then we realized, well, we need to be as parents, on the same page and driving in the same direction. So one thing that happened is I was traveling for a few weeks and Scrum kind of fell apart when I was gone. And so I realized, my husband and I really have to both have the same system and have the same way of working for it to stick. And so he is definitely coming around on it now.
Yeah, so on your website, scrummom.com, you actually have you label these things as a family sprint, right? So you're calling them a family sprint. I think you're making this very clear that this is Scrum at home, Scrum with a family. Is there, what kind of, for example, is there a demo? What kind of activities do you guys perform, which we map from our professional world to your family? What do we have to envision here? Is there a demo? Is there a sprint closure? Is there, I think you mentioned earlier, Sunday would be the start of a sprint. Is that correct?
Yeah, yep, typically on Sundays. So, yes, at the last day of the sprint, what we typically do is, we go through the board and we have the kids walk us through everything that they did, and we kind of accept it or don't accept it and say, okay, we're ready to kind of move on. Especially like things like the cat litter. Is it done? Is it acceptable? Um, so yeah, we've had kind of those type of walkthroughs, especially if the job is going to change hands to another family member. We want to make sure that, okay, now you're leaving your assigned task in a way that you can pass it on to somebody else.
Yeah, from you, I would assume that you're like overseeing this process, and you mentioned when you left the house for a business trip, scrums started to fall apart. What kind of benefits do you see, like just as an output from this process? What do you see happen to the family and to the work the family did since the introduction of Scrum?
Well, I think it makes everybody have some sort of ownership and sense of responsibility, and it helps us get things done. Because when everybody thinks everybody else is going to do something for them, like they think mom and dad is going to do all the work, nothing gets done. Is what I've really found. And even with my husband. That's always been sort of a source of contention of, well, who's doing more work? Well, now we've talked about it and agreed upon it and kind of formalized tasks, even between us. And that's really helped some of it, just the marital strife of, wait a second, why am I pulling more weight? So that's been good. And you know what, we're still flexible too. If I get home from work earlier, I'll cook dinner or vice versa. But we kind of have a sense of who owns the work, and it really does feel like we're able to stay on top of just daily household chores a little bit better, and have more time for playing, have more time for fun.
I wanted to ask you, is like, what is the Ackermans are now turning into a highly productive family here in terms of household chores. The basement is clean and dust free and everything. Did you guys still have fun?
Yes, yeah, and I would not say we have a perfect household by any means. Scrum is a tool that helps, but it doesn't solve all problems. But yeah, I mean, and that's what we try and tell the kids. You just do a little bit every day. We keep up with things, and we won't spend the entire weekend cleaning because we're so behind. And we can go out and we can do something fun. The very first sprint, I motivated them with ice cream. I said, "All right, we do this well, and we'll go out for ice cream." But I found that they weren't even talking about the ice cream so much more as the just knowing what they had to do without me constantly telling them. Especially with my tween, that was a really big motivator to him, just to be able to say, I've got some ownership. I can figure out what I need to do.
Well, this is actually an interesting point, because if we're now mapping your household situation to agile teams out there in corporations, very often I see teams work towards the end of a sprint or their accomplishments, and there is no ice cream.
Yeah, right.
There is no ice cream. Yeah,
No.
so maybe there's a piece to learn here. It's like, well, it is a little bit of a treat, right? And he said, do we really need to put ice cream out there to make people, step up more and take certain chores off the list? But at the end of the day, it's also a fun activity, right? So
Yeah.
more of that.
Yes. Yeah, I think, hopefully in the workplace that you have motivated employees. Sometimes you do have to, try and do a fun activity or team building activity or something like that, just to kind of get Scrum going if it's new and it's different. But it's not sustainable, right? You're not
Yeah.
going to have a party every sprint, so you have to be mindful of that too.
That's right. But sometimes you just need, even though motivated, everybody's motivated, you need that day after the 4th of July. You just need something to get things going, right?
Yeah.
Or a typical Monday morning. Well, Stacey, I want to ask you something here towards the end of our recording, and that is, what's your intent, right? You're doing Agile at work. You wanted to see, obviously, we're curious to see, does this work in my family? And the answer is mixed, but somewhat positive. That's why you keep going. But what's your ultimate goal? What you're trying to do here is, with your experiment. We are here on a podcast. You're interested in, sharing your experiences as a family? Do you want to see more Scrum in families? What's your intent with this?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think it's really, kind of to prove, for one thing, that Scrum isn't just an IT thing, right? Scrum is really a way of working and collaborating and, building trust and respect among a group of people. And so, my intent is to kind of work with my family and get some lessons learned that I can use with my clients and vice versa, and apply it really to all areas of my life, because I do think it is a good foundation.
That is awesome, right? So, Stacey, everybody who wants to get in touch with you, learn about what your family sprints look like, experiences you have gained in the months to come, ScrumMom is the .com is the internet address. Well, maybe down the road, you get your own reality TV show.
Absolutely, you never know.
The Scrum Mom.
That would be fun, right? Mainstream it.
That's right. Thank you so much for sharing your insights, a little bit about your family and Scrum. Good luck with everything, and happy retrospectives.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to Agile.FM, the radio for the Agile community. I'm your host, Joe Krebs. If you're interested in more programming and additional podcasts, please go to www.agile.fm. Talk to you soon.